delighted to be here. I mean, this feels like a really radical innovation in an awful long time actually in the fruition. The fact that actually, in fact, we've now got a club that actually can enable networking and mutual support and can then tie back to NHS England, I think is absolutely great. I'm not going to talk for very long. What I really want to get across are some key points, and I'll do those now, and then you can have copies of the slides. I guess the first key point is that, as Ros Roughton said at the commissioning show in Confed, there are two key leadership challenges for CCGs over the next 2 or 3 years. In the short term, and in the very short term and for 14-15, grabbing quality and actually being clear locally what are the areas where actually quality is unacceptable, and then actually being clear through the contracting round, working with these CSUs if you've got one, to seriously improve quality. So that actually ensuring safe, high quality services now is a key challenge, and obviously highly sensitive and very timely and likely to be quite difficult given the financial pressures in the NHS. So there's the quality stuff. But then the second big leadership challenge for CCGs, where I think they're uniquely qualified to lead on it, is actually commissioning for transformation, which is where I see COBIC making a huge potential contribution. If you look at the challenges facing the NHS over the next 2 or 3 years, they are enormous. Demographics and hence demand all going the wrong way. Most of the incidence issues, complications around long-term conditions going the wrong way, apart from interestingly actually diabetes too, according to the latest research paper. But we are still not in a good position around actually the impact of demography, LTCs and so on demand. If we take one of the other LTCs, some of you may have actually in fact seen the Right Care report a few weeks ago on liver disease, which was absolutely damning. We don't even know actually in fact, we know which providers provide services to support, we don't know what they provide, we don't know actually whether they're any good, there's no information out there. Information on incidents for commissioners is very patchy, putting it mildly, but we know that actually incidence is growing and it's proving to be an increasing pressure on the system. So if you look at that, if you look at the pressures actually around urgent care and so on, we're already in not a good position. And that is only going to worsen as actually the numbers around demand get more difficult and as resources tighten. It's not coincidental that the King's Fund have just launched their commission into the future and particularly the sustainability of the NHS. So we're at a stage now actually when, unless commissioners, and particularly commissioners, grab by the scruff of the neck clinical transformation and make it happen, we are going to see an increasing number of systems fail because we're locked into high levels of investment in outmoded delivery systems, not just in hospital care, and the focus tends to be there. We made a bit of progress under transforming community services, but not a lot in terms of community services. So what we need is actually, in fact, commissioners to be bold, to be radical, and I think to take population-based commissioning seriously. Now, there are various methodologies you can use for that, but I think COBIC is one where I think it fits the bill. We need to learn actually how to use it and so on, but moving towards a model where you've actually got the risk care coordination transferred from the commissioner, where you're actually targeting resources on those elements of your populations, frail older people, complex multiple problems, end of life care, whatever the issue happens to be most pressing in your patch, moving to a population basis, being clear on priorities, driving for improvements and outcomes. Yes, you'll need some quality process measures, particularly in the early years. Yes, it's difficult and complex and so on, but what's the alternative? The alternative is actually old-style, incremental commissioning, with most commissioners not being in a strong position, particularly with their acute providers. That is not going to dig us out of the hole of an unsustainable NHS. So I'm very happy to be supporting COBIC. I think it's one of a range of methodologies. It's come up the profile a lot. So on Wednesday, the directors in commissioning development, which is chaired by Ros Roughton, met, and we were having a discussion about actually what's worrying us most and 3 of us within about 30 seconds says, you know what, we just think the commissioning system is not ready for the scale of the challenge and the difficulty of 14, 15 and 15, 16. And if we don't get NHS England focused on supporting CCGs and CSUs now, like in the next few months, it'll be too late. And the consequences of being too late in terms of grabbing quality and starting to actually shift some of the delivery models are going to be very grave, both in terms of money and quality. So out of that conversation, we're actually raising at NHS England's Leadership Forum in July, what are we, i.e. the total we of NHS England, going to do to pack behind commissioners, both direct and CCGs and CSUs, as key enablers of this? What are we going to do practically around reforming the standard contract, enabling COBIC, ensuring that actually we've got a more coherent approach around specialised services commissioning? Out of that, we all took the view that actually encouraging, enabling more radical approaches to commissioning was good. In terms of proven methodologies, let's go for COBIC. So we took 2 decisions. One was that actually NHS England would like, subject to COBIC Club's agreement, to actually be the, if you like, the organisational sponsor of the COBIC Club and COBIC more generally. What would that mean? Well, that would mean, for example, that if you start to hit difficulties with Monitor around it's anti-competitive, you can't do that with tariff, whatever the issue is, that actually NHS England will pick up the battle for you rather than you having to fight it. That will actually do things like actually putting on your website, again if you agree, the answers to all the challenges around you can't do COBIC because it's tariff, because, well, we'll just actually in fact deal with that discussion and put it up there. So we decided to actually in fact put our weight behind COBIC and a number of other initiatives to actually support CCGs practically and CSUs for the next 2 years. Ros has also actually asked me to act as the sponsor for the COBIC Club and COBIC. So basically what that means is I'll stay very close to the organisers, but if you get issues that you're stuck on, or hopefully we can work with you around actually making sure that either the standard contract is amended to do COBIC, or we end up actually working on standard contract terms that aren't the standard contract, that we can start fixing some of that stuff for you. But I just wanted to leave you with the message that actually this is really important in terms of the future of the NHS, because this will be one of the key levers for driving transformation. If we don't do that transformation, then we are stuffed in terms of quality, resources, value, and so on. And that's not what we want to be. And secondly, that you will have the backing of NHS England in this. I think it's great that the CSUs have turned out en masse today. We want to again encourage them to actually skill up around COBIC and support CCGs actively in using it in the next 2 or 3 years. And so if you've got issues, if somebody says you can't do it, as long as you're following a fair process, we're not going to cover up for incompetence, but if somebody says you can't do that because of, then you need to go back to the COBIC Club and they will raise it with me and we'll go and talk to Monitor or whoever it is saying you can't. But I'll leave you with that thought. It's a really great day. I'm delighted it's actually up and running now and you have the support from NHS England. And if you hit stormy waters as you will, then come and talk to us. Thanks.